Let's start by talking about the dynamic import feature provided by NextJS. By importing the dynamic function from NextDynamic, we're able to load components or pages only when they're needed, rather than at the initial page load. This can significantly improve the performance of your application, especially for larger components or pages. Here we're creating a dynamic component called Dynamic Component. This component is not imported conventionally but is instead loaded using the dynamic function. The dynamic function takes a function that returns a promise resolving to the module, in this case, my component. The component will only be loaded when it's rendered for the first time. Now let's have a look at the homepage component. Inside this component, you can use the dynamic component just like any other React component. Although dynamic component is not loaded initially, when the homepage renders, it will be loaded dynamically and displayed to the user. This results in a smaller initial page size and faster loading times. Again, the process starts with importing the dynamic function. Remember that this function is key to Next.js's code splitting capabilities. In this snippet, we create a dynamically loaded dynamic page. This variable is actually a reference to another page in your application, which is assumed to be large enough to benefit from being loaded dynamically. Here we have a component called Link to Dynamic Page. Inside this component, there is a button. When this button is clicked, the dynamic page will be loaded on demand. This technique can be particularly useful for pages that are not critical to the initial rendering of the application, such as heavy admin panels or seldom used modals.